Hello and welcome to this year's CEO Pop Conference. My name is Wernicke. I'm head of content for Deezer in Germany. Means I'm responsible for music, for audiobooks, and as well for podcasts. I've been in the music industry now for more than 25 years. Started out dealing in a record store, vinyls, and then moving over to becoming a talent scout at various labels in Germany, indie and major. And about 10 years ago, I switched to the digital world, meaning streaming. So streaming is a bit older than 10 years. Deezer has been founded in 2007 in France, as you will know. And it has become the dominant source of revenue for recorded music. So in Germany alone, in the first semester, it made up almost 2/3 of revenue, a figure unheard of before. And in times of lockdowns, where all live shows are not possible, all eyes actually are on streaming and basically also on the revenue situation. So for the past 10 years, the current remuneration system has worked quite well, but it has also been a bit distorted, or may I say flawed. For example, did you know that the biggest part of your subscription fee is not being paid to the artist that you actually listen to? Neither did I. You'd be surprised how many people in the industry, be it artists, be it managers, be it people on the label side, do not know how the calculation actually happens. We can do better than what the current situation is, and we will, because there is a better system out there. So ever since 2016, ever since 2016, we've been informed that a new remuneration system called Usercentric payment is out there. And a favorite journalist of mine, Mark Mulligan from the UK, pointed out that user-centric payment is a more transparent way of paying royalties, and where a link of fan and artist is re-established, because right now, as I just pointed out, this is not necessarily the case. So to sum it up, before I go into details, why do we want UCPS? So as I said, it's an intrinsically more fair remuneration system. It re-establishes, it recreates the connection between artist and the fan. Very important, it helps to prevent fraud. And thus, it creates a more diverse and more sustainable music market. So, in other words, I would say that it's the next logical step for the music industry. But let's take a step back, or probably also even look at how the situation is now. So over the years, the streaming revolution has caused and produced some interesting headlines. There was a media frenzy which at times was getting really ridiculous. News about low income or no income at all, mixing up radio style apps such as Pandora, or confusing songwriters with performing artists. So there were a lot of misunderstandings that were in the news, and not many journalists nor artists even knew how the revenues were actually calculated. But were they always that wrong? Let me show you how streaming royalties are currently calculated. For sake of clarity, in this presentation we focus on recorded music and labels. The publishing side works basically the same. Furthermore, we focus on the paid subscription model, not the free model. So currently users pay a subscription fee to the DSPs, digital service providers, such as Spotify, Apple, and Deezer. And these DSPs have deals with labels and with publisher, who then pay the artist. This is very important. DSPs, like Deezer, do not directly pay the artist. Meaning, we're not responsible how the dollar that the label makes or the euro is being then split between label and artist. So probably we're the wrong tree to bark at when it comes to the revenue of the revenue situation and what actually lands in the pocket of artists. Suffice to say that we as Deezer pay more than 70% of our revenue to the rights holders, be it the labels, be it the publishers. So how does this currently look? The current system has produced some disturbing events. So in a subscription, this current subscription model basically rewards heavy streamers or streams or tracks that are being streamed heavily. So as you can see in this slide, the user 1, for example, pays 10 euros and streams 900 streams. So he's basically a heavy user of this artist red. The user 2 or the user blue pays the same amount of money and produces only 100 streams because he probably doesn't have the time. He's probably not so much into music. So the pro-rate model, as you can see here, generates a much higher revenue for the artist red than for the artist blue. So this is a situation where the artist red profits over proportion in the current system. So what would a user-centric payment actually do? User-centric payment would actually make both users equal again, meaning both pay their 10 euro subscription fee for a regular premium model. And even if, for example, user blue just would stream one track of his or her favorite artist, the entire subscription fee would go to this artist, in this case, user blue. What you can see here on the right-hand side, the Deezer logo with the 6 euros, this means 2 times 3 euros for the actual fee that the service keeps for itself for each subscription, just to be open about this here. So this is the current situation, which, as you can see, is already flawed and a bit distorted, but it can get even more drastic. So imagine a bad actor, as this current system is inviting people to behave badly and to produce streams from probably a fake artist or probably to boost their own streams. So in a situation like this, as you can see with the numbers, the 10,000 streams of that bad actor, this fraudulent activity, this squeezes out even more revenue out of the correct user and correct artist blue. So you see that the distortion here is more drastic, but even more so, and what I find really interesting in this example here, the bad actor pays 10 euros for its subscription, but generates even more than the 10 euros, meaning 30 euros and 86 cents. So this is basically a money-making scheme. It's not about music anymore. This is fraudulent activity to generate money and also, in consequence, to take away money from regular music that's really being listened to. So what do we actually do against fraudulent activity? Just a brief excursion. Oh no, sorry, let's step back. To make this clear, under user-centric payment, the fraudulent activity would still be possible, but the financial incentive of that printing money scheme would become uninteresting, meaning that you can just generate the money that is invested in a subscription. That's what you can just get in terms of royalties, as you can see here in this example. Once again, Deezer keeps 6 euros for the 2 subscriptions. So let's step back to the fraudulent activity and how we can actually prevent this. So I just brought 2 examples. On the left-hand side, you can see a regular user that's streaming. You can see on the left side in the you a weekly clock where you can see a listening behavior, and you can see that a user is not listening constantly to music. You can see also that the average time that a user listens to music is around 203 seconds, which is a regular song, right, basically. On the right-hand side, you see that a user streams permanently each and every day from 8 in the morning till 9 at night. What's interesting and even more telling is that the average listening time per track is around 34 seconds. So the listener is not even listening to a song in its entirety, but always starts anew. You have to know that a stream is being counted after 30 seconds. So what we then do is we look deeper into this account, and we look deeper into the tracks. What are their streaming behaviors on other platforms? What is the streaming behavior with other users? And once we detect such fraudulent activity, we inform the rights holder of that artist. We take out the song or the track out of the remuneration, and also out of the calculation of the charts. So there's a constant controlling process out there over the entire catalog, 56 million tracks, each and every day, and also over every user. But it's not only the fraudulent activity that's causing the distortion. It's also the sheer availability of music, which has created or produced such a phenomenon. So never in the history of music, the consumption of music has been this high. So we have this phenomenon of heavy streamers, meaning that 31%, for example, of our user base stream more than 600 tracks per month, but yet generate more than 70% of revenue. Or else, 42% of our user base, they stream more than 100 artists per month, and yet generate 71% of revenue. So this is under the current situation. So in the new situation with user-centric payment, we would 31% of our user base, the heavy streamers, would actually generate 31% of revenue because it will be made equal. So it's the heavy users, and the heavy users as streaming is not only technologically a new medium or a young medium, but it's also being used by a lot of young, by a big young audience, as you can see here in the violet and the blue. Well, especially in the violet graph. So in the age bracket, 19% at Deezer, but it generates 24% of revenue because of the sheer amount of tracks being played. Under UCPS, this would be fixed, and 19% of the user base would produce 90% of revenue, obviously. Also, the youngsters tend to skip more, so their attention span is a bit shorter, meaning that they produce even more tracks that are being listened to than, for example, in the older generation. They're also the ones with the most mobile use, obviously. So this shouldn't be no news to you guys out there. What has this produced, actually? It's also changed the music scene drastically. So the shorter tracks are much more en vogue. There's a phenomenon called streaming rap, but also basically the shortening of tracks has caused the, I'd say, elimination of the third verse in a song. It's not the 3-minute 30 radio song anymore. It's more 2 minutes something and more hook lines than actually a third verse, and no intros at all, because everyone wants to make that threshold of 30 seconds so that each song is actually counted. What it looks like is that we have discovered not only shorter tracks, but even tracks that are well, not even music anymore. So we have a lot of tracks out there in the ecosystem of every DSP that are not even music, but that are just sounds, like nature sounds. So who would be the recipient of royalties for a thunderstorm or waves or rain? So I don't have anything against the use of nature sounds, for example, to fall asleep or anything, but if, for example, big record companies introduce long playlists with 45-second long tracks of rain, it's basically, they're skewing the system, because then basically this is money that other artists that actually have produced music will not make. So how can this money be distributed, or how would the world look like under user-centric payment? Because there's a lot of rumors out there of how that would actually look. So what I did is that I calculated the numbers of this year, starting in January until September. And let me show you, this is probably a very interesting slide for you guys, how the impact of user-centric payment in 2020 would look like in Germany. So as you can see on the left-hand side, with more than 70%, Schlager would be the biggest winner under UCPS. Although the numbers of Schlager in a streaming environment are admittedly pretty low. What's very interesting is that pop would be a big winner, as also rock, and also they have a substantial volume of streams that they produce. On the right-hand side, you see what I consider the losers, or the ones where revenue would actually decrease. So you see a decrease in genres that are listened to by a very young audience. I was speaking about their listening behavior and the higher skip rate earlier. So actually I'm talking about rap, hip-hop, but also EDM and electro. The differentiation between rap and hip-hop is a metadata question. Some titles are delivered under raps, some under hip-hop, some both. I can tell you that right now the rap hip-hop decrease would be around 7% each. It used to be last year at -15, so the situation has improved. The biggest chunk that you can see on the right-hand side, and what is called unknown, is another metadata situation, because unknown in this case means audiobooks. And especially in Germany, audio plays what we in Germany call Hörspiel. So there's a lot of audio plays out there with remodeled catalogs, shortened tracks, so probably sometimes just tracks around a minute long, with with many different chapters. So these would actually decrease the most under user-centric payments with a substantial volume. Nevertheless, it's very important to point out that if you look at the audiobooks, EDM, electro, and hip-hop, they would, together with pop and rock, remain the strongest genres out there. It's not like their business under UCPS would be over or far from it. They would remain, the audiobooks would remain, together with rap and pop, remain the strongest genre. So the whole approach is revolutionary. The actual outcome is minimal, especially as this is just a snapshot of what the situation is now and what the calculation is now for the years so far, where we have not introduced user-centric payment. Why now? I find that now that when it's actually possible to give each and every user a receipt at the end of the month and say, these are the artists and these are the tracks that you've been listening to, and that you have supported directly with your subscription fee. Now that this is technically possible, we should really bring this to life and bring this forth. For the past year, I would say, I've been doing a lot of groundwork and lobbying with especially the labels, also some publishers, but also rights societies such as GEMA, where I've presented user-centric payment and the necessity of this new model. And so far, I have to say that the response has been very, very positive. All labels and also publishers are supportive of the idea, and now is the time to actually put all the arguments that you can see here and that I've pointed out together, put them on the table, and then start the negotiation, because we need to switch the contracts. It is a task which is big, because every market participant, has to join. You cannot redistribute revenue from one side to the other if there are some partners that say, nah, I'm against it, I don't want to do it. So this is going to be, the biggest challenge for us. So what's next? As I said, I did the lobbying work, the grassroots work, the convincing of labels and the presentations to artists. As you will know, there in Germany, there is this fair share initiative of big artists and managers coming together and demanding the introduction of UCPS. We have a website out there called deezer.com/UCPS, where you can actually see how you would fare, you and your listening behavior would fare under this different modeling system. Let's take a look at that. So this is what the site looks like. Pretty nice if you want to put it down in writing, deezer.com/UCPS. And I've done the calculation for myself. So for the month of September, and I find that this is the biggest and most important slide of this entire presentation. For the month of September, 95% of my subscription fee went to artists I never even once listened to. And if you show this to an artist, if you show this to a manager or an einer person, they will say, okay, we understand, the time is now. We need to get busy now and introduce this to the market. Only 5% of my subscription fee currently goes to artists that I do actually listen to. So my listening behavior might be a bit bizarre or strange, but you will see that it actually looks like this. So the number one artist that we have is not necessarily an artist, neither is number three. They're both authors, Matthias Brandt and Sophie Passmann, that I've listened to, obviously, but also indie acts like Big Thief or Floating Points, and even, what is also interesting, the Beatles. So you cannot say that this is just made for the independents, or basically audiobooks will lose. No, I have 2 audiobooks authors in here and 2 publications from the audiobook world in my top 5. So each and every look is individual. You cannot damn, we especially do not damn every genre. I'm really agnostic about any genre at all. I don't want to crucify any genre here or say we need to do everything because Schlager is going to profit most. Absolutely not. Every music has its right to be out there and to be heard, but also to be fairly remunerated. So what keeps us? As I said, we need to convince every label, every publisher to participate. The Fair Share Group is doing its bit to help me with, or to help themselves basically with it, but also to help me furthering the cause with the labels and the publishers. So we're ready. At the touch of a button, we can switch to the user-centric payment system to eventually make streaming fair. So in case you have any questions, I'll be available for a Q&A right afterwards. And yeah, thank you for listening and taking your time.